99 cents Only Stores is a sizable West Coast retail chain of about 370 locations that likely won't exist for much longer. Just this week, it has been reported that they are filing for bankruptcy and will be shutting down every one of their stores. The company is in a lot of debt, more than they can handle, so they are essentially selling off everything they own as an attempt to raise money to pay these creditors. As I make this, there is talk about a group of investors potentially coming together to rescue a lot of their Southern California stores, but still unclear if anything will happen with that, and it still wouldn't prevent the closure of most of the stores. The chain originated in Southern California in 1982 and grew to around 75 locations before expanding outside of the state for the first time in 1999. That year, they opened a store in Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 years later, they opened one in Arizona, and then after another 2 years, they made a big push into Texas that never seemed to go all that well. They bought the 741,000 square foot warehouse with plans to open a bunch of them in Houston and Dallas, but had overestimated the demand for that type of store in the area and even came close to leaving the area after only a few years. But they did end up staying, I guess, until now. 99 cents Only stores are easily identified by their unique colors, bright lighting, and signature layout that has made them an attractive setting for certain creative works. Notably, in the movie Punch Drunk Love, where Adam Sandler is dancing around the store, Jimmy Kimmel Live aired a comedy bit where rapper 50 Cent had a back-to-school sale at the 50-cent store. In 1999, Andreas Gursky took a famous photo from over the aisles that was exhibited at the Museum of Modern Art before being auctioned off for over $3 million, the most money that was ever paid for a photograph at the time. So even though these stores have only ever operated within 4 states, they have made a much wider impact and may be recognizable to a lot of viewers from outside of that area. Many of those viewers, by the way, have asked me to make a video about the subject, and that is why I'm here today. In this video, I want to talk about the decline of 99 cents Only stores while identifying what I believe to be 5 of the biggest reasons behind it. Starting off the list with the pandemic, and honestly, I don't want to spend too much time on this one. It's fairly straightforward. Their CEO even identified it as a main reason behind the closings, along with a statement saying, "This was an extremely difficult decision and is not the outcome we expected or hoped to achieve." That's a sad statement, but I really have to question how unexpected any of this truly is, because these stores have been struggling for quite a while. Their most recently reported figures from 2016, well before the pandemic, were showing giant losses. In 2017 and 2019, they made these debt restructuring deals where I believe they traded partial ownership of the company to the creditors in exchange for debt relief, showing that they were already struggling to pay their debts. Then in 2021, Moody's downgraded their credit ratings, saying that they were less likely to be able to pay off their debts. So this bankruptcy announcement couldn't have been too unexpected to almost anyone familiar with the situation. Yes, the pandemic certainly complicated things, but I would say that it was more of a final blow rather than the root cause of the problem. The next reason on my list goes a little deeper, and that is competition. I should mention here that 99-cent stores have always done a great job in differentiating themselves from the other competing dollar stores. The average location is much larger, averaging around 16,000 square feet or so, which is around twice as large. And the main reason for that extra space is because they sell so much more food. I would describe it as a blend between a dollar store and a supermarket that still carries most of the popular name brands. Historically, around 50% of their sales have come from food and beverages. Aside from that, they're known for being cleaner, more organized, I would say maybe even a little classier, if that's a fitting word. They never specifically open them in low-income areas like you might expect from a dollar store. In fact, their most successful location is near Beverly Hills, but at the end of the day, it is still a dollar store that competes heavily based on price, and economies of scale is so important when lowering costs. Generally, the more you buy of something from a supplier, the bigger the discount you get, right? And being confined to 4 states means that 99 cents Only stores are simply not operating at the same scale as these other national dollar store chains. Dollar General, for example, has over 20,000 locations, and by that measure alone, they are more than 50 times larger. Plus, considering their emphasis on food products, they are also competing with larger discount grocery stores like Walton Walmart or Aldi, where they are running into the same issue. Not to mention the online retailers, so it's tough. Higher costs mean that 99-cents only stores are having trouble generating profits at comparable prices. My next reason behind the decline is inflation, also identified by their CEO as a main reason, but I'm looking at the bigger picture here. Inflation becomes a very complicated issue when you have an exact price point in the name of the store. See, the chain was started by Dave Gold. His parents immigrated to the United States from Russia and opened a liquor store in downtown Los Angeles when he was still a kid in the 1940s. He worked at that store from a young age, and in the 1960s, when his father passed away, he took over that store. That is when he noticed that items would sell much better when he priced them at exactly 99 cents. He went so far as to call it a magic number. It's a psychological thing where the nines make it appear cheaper to the customers. Almost everybody prices items like that, but he was the one who centered an entire business around it. When he was 50 years old in 1982, he believed in that idea so much that he opened the first 99 cents only store, and over the years, there's been so much emphasis on the number 9. Whenever they opened a new location, it became tradition to offer a 19-inch television to the first 9 customers for 99 cents. Typical store hours would be 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Most of their advertising over the years has featured 9s in creative ways. When they had a public stock offering in 1996, I think it's wild that Dave Gold insisted that the initial selling price ended in 99. I mean, they claim to be the first ever chain to sell all their merchandise at the same price point. Everything was 99 cents when that first store opened, but according to this inflation calculator, 99 cents in 1982 is the equivalent of $3.18 today. So you can see how things become impractical. By 2008, profits were down, and they were really feeling the pressure to make a change. So that year, for the first time in 26 years, they raised the price of their items to 99.99 cents. Yeah, it doesn't even really make sense. I think it's more confusing than anything. There was even a class action lawsuit about it, but it effectively meant that the items now cost $1. I think it's funny that their CEO at the time said that he was only aware of one customer that bought a watermelon for $1 thinking that it would be 99 cents. They offered to return it, but the customer decided to keep it, saying that it was still a good deal. And you're probably thinking, how much can a 1 penny price increase possibly matter? Well, it was a 1% price increase, and with $1.2 billion in sales, that should theoretically translate to an extra $12 million a year. And combined with economic factors in their favor, things did improve following the price increase. But I still have to put it on my list here because over time, they were forced to price items above $1. So the 99 cents gimmick and the entire theme of the store hasn't been nearly as impactful. It's to a point where it can be debated that the name itself qualifies as false advertising. The next reason on my list is the buyout. In 2011, it was announced that 99 cents only stores was going to be acquired by a private equity firm in the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board in a deal valued at $1.6 billion. It was partially leveraged, meaning it added hundreds of millions of dollars of debt to the company. Dave Gold had famously avoided debt, having said, "I have a theory about credit. I think it's bad for the country." He said he was once advised to borrow money so he can establish credit, but he didn't feel good doing it and ended up paying it back after only a few days. So throughout his ownership of the company, he had kept it completely free of long-term debt for most of its existence. In the early days, he would open new locations by reinvesting profits, and then that IPO in 1996 sold a third of the company to the public and helped raise money to take those expansion efforts to the next level. I think it's actually really impressive having built something so significant relying only on the earnings and the sale of equity. My point here is that there was zero debt going into this deal, and all of a sudden it was approaching $1 billion in debt, leading to interest payments of around $60 million a year, and that certainly didn't help the situation. Today, they are filing for bankruptcy and liquidating their stores to pay their debt, most of which would not be there if not for this buyout, so I think it's safe to say that they would still be hanging in there if this deal never happened. My final reason goes along closely with the previous one, but I have to put a lot lot of blame on the new owners. Before the sale, this was a family business. Founder Dave Gold was still very much involved, approaching 80 years old, while his son-in-law Eric Schiffer had become CEO, his son Jeff Gold was president and COO, and various other roles were filled by members of the family. I have to believe that there was a lot of pride involved, and they were running things using proven principles that had been established by Dave Gold decades earlier, utilizing the relationships that he had built with suppliers and things along those lines. At the time of the sale, it was reported that all of those family members would remain in their positions. However, about a year later, in early 2013, all of them left. I believe they were forced out of there. The chairman at the time said that the changes were meant to accelerate the company's growth strategy. So to me, this seems like they realized that they needed to scale operations to remain competitive, and the idea was to bring in some executives who had experience doing that with other retailers. They kept naming new CEOs. First it was a former executive from Food Lion, then it was someone from Dollarama, and then it was Kroger. Right away, they started opening dozens of new locations that were smaller than the previous ones, seemingly because it required a lower investment. There was a controversial $20 million cash dividend being distributed to the owners each year, pulling money out of the company that was clearly very much needed. I don't know, it was privately owned and hard to tell exactly what was happening during this time, but the more aggressive approach proved to be harmful. Their profits went down while their debt went up, and that's when they had to keep restructuring things and ultimately file for bankruptcy. I should also mention that founder David Gold passed away suddenly from a heart attack only a few months after the new managers took control, so I guess that just sort of made the changes seem a little more final. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about 99-cents only stores? For those of you who have been there and grew up with them in the area, how do they compare to the other dollar stores, and are you going to miss them? Unless there is some kind of major development, these stores are not going to be there for much longer, so it's kind of looking like your final chance to visit. You might want to make that happen if it's not too inconvenient. I think this is a cool story that slowly turns more and more depressing to what ultimately turned out to be a sad ending, but still a great case study if nothing else. Let me know if you agree with that, and any other thoughts you have about 99-cents only stores, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.